influential leaders. Hello, how are you doing today? It's Lenka and Alexander Kanen, straight from the Netherlands, coming at you with another episode of our Influential Executive podcast. Today's topic is health, but not only the physical health, but the mental health. Today we had Ben on our podcast, and Ben is a master on how to get your body, mind and soul in one line so that you have a great life and you make for yourself and for all the people around you beautiful experiences.
That's right. If you're like most professionals we know, then probably time is scarce. There's a big workload for you, and then taking care of your health, it can be challenging. Mm-hmm. So today we speak about all these health-related topics with a worldwide expert. He knows about so many things. So we asked him about how to sleep better, how to get up in the morning. Should we drink more coffee or less coffee? Should we drink more water all the time, or does it not apply to every situation? And tons of other things you can do to keep your body healthy, fit and strong, so that you feel great throughout the working days and of course during your quality time as well. This episode is sponsored by Earn More, Work Less. We help overloaded professionals, busy teams. We give them superpowers to deal with all of the challenges in today's business world. Right here, we provide world-class education, and today with Ben Coomber. Ben, welcome in the Influential Executive Podcast.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
I'm very excited to hearing from you about health, nutrition, how we can take better care of our bodies with the limited time that we have available.
Let's do it.
I understand you know a thing or two about this topic, but it wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't. Where do you start? I got into the health and fitness industry because I used to be obese, suffered with IBS, ADHD, asthma, eczema, and it was the journey to health that inspired me to get into the health industry. I wasn't in a good place. I was at a point in my career where actually I was trying to define what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and it was a case of looking at myself and saying, am I the best version of myself to perform at the highest level? And I couldn't honestly say I was. So that embarked on fitness journey, health journey, and bringing it all together. And I lost a huge amount of weight, reclaimed my health, and that inspired me to move from my desired career in acting to move into the health and fitness industry.
Can you walk me through a typical day back then versus a typical day right now?
It's a bit tough, and it's probably an unfair comparison because when I was younger, I went to boarding school. So my day was controlled. It was get up, polish your shoes, go to breakfast, come back, make your bed, go to school kind of thing. And it wasn't until I left school and then was staring my future in the face that I then took it in my own hands. So it's hard for me to go back that long and say that I had a lot of negative habits because my environment was being kind of forced upon me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But what had to happen? Did something strange happen? Because there must have been some kind of shift. You just woke up one day and decided, hey, I'm going to do all I can to become healthy? Or did you learn something?
I wanted to essentially be the best version of myself. And one thing that actually propelled me forward is I was trying to lose weight and I was trying to be healthier, and it wasn't working. I wasn't being very successful at it. And I've got a younger brother, and we were arguing in the kitchen one day. And I was teasing him, and he reacted, and he sort of fought back and said, do you know what? You're not so perfect. Like, you're putting all this effort in and you're getting nothing out of it. And it made me have to really stare at myself and going, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm saying all this stuff, but I'm not being successful. And that was when I really had to flip my fitness on its head and ask harder questions of myself and find better answers to my problems. So that's kind of what pushed me really far in that direction. That was kind of like that intervention moment.
How old were you by then?
I would have been about 18, 19.
Oh, that's quite a big decision. I think most people make the decision when they are 30, 40, they look at themselves, they're like, I don't like this version. And you are rather young for such a radical decision. So that's what you are doing nowadays. Do you help people make better decisions for their life?
Yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, we run education programs, we sell supplements, we do absolutely loads of stuff. So yeah, after sort of 10, 12 years in the fitness industry and in business, we end up doing quite a lot, probably to our detriment.
And when you speak of we, is it like you and your team, or are you partnered up with someone?
Yeah, I am the sole owner of my business. I have a team of 6 full-time staff that work in various departments. And then I have probably a handful of contractors and part-time people as well that sort of bring together our team, so to speak.
Awesome. And you have top 10 in the world health and fitness podcast.
It has been in the past. I would say it's not top 10 anymore. Podcasting is a highly competitive space now. I don't know if you just saw that Spotify bought Anchor and their parent company for something like £340 million. So it's a highly competitive space, but the podcast is still doing well. We get about 150,000 downloads a month.
That's brilliant. What brought you to the top? What's so special about your podcast?
Definitely I was an early adopter. So the podcast has been around 6 years now. So I was one of the first in the health and fitness industry in the UK to do podcasting. Probably good guests, good interviews. I think I've learned the skill of interviewing someone, asking probing questions, taking the story on a bit of a journey. So I think that's important. It's like anything in marketing. If you're going to leverage a platform, whether it's podcast, blogs, videos, anything, you have to still master that platform. You have to put time into it. It's not just a case of getting behind a microphone or getting behind a camera. It's about respecting that art form and being the best at it that you can be.
That's really cool. So there's a bunch of tips for us there as well. I love how you describe you take the conversation on a journey. What does that mean?
Well, to get to the meat of any conversation, I think you've got to unpick the layers of an onion. I think for me, a poor interviewer will sort of just, stick to the headlines, tell me about this, tell me about that. And it's like, you've got to just listen and see what the person says and really go down maybe a path that might feel a little bit uncomfortable as well. Because really, I think in life, a lot of us are really seeking truth and transparency and honesty, and you only get that from really probing and asking the hard questions and being able to get to someone's real core rather than just what's on the surface.
Oh, that's good.
I do like it, and I think that's also what makes you a good trainer or a good coach, right? Asking the right questions so that you kind of figure out how to help that particular person. So how did you get into health and fitness industry, or when did you make the decision, I want to become coach? Because there was that part of the story when you said, I want to take responsibility for my own body, for my own health. When did you make that step and said, hey, I want to make a business out of it?
It probably happened over about the course of a year. I was doing auditions for drama school. I was trying to enter into the sort of acting and media industry, and it wasn't going that well, but my fitness was going really well. So I was being conflicted by my past and my training and my interest in health and fitness. And I ended up going traveling. I went for 3 months and traveled around Asia and, spent some time just having a bit of fun. And I came home and I remember sitting down with my girlfriend, who 12 years later is my wife, and said, do you know what? I don't know if I'm happy doing what I'm doing anymore. I don't feel passionate about it anymore. And she just said, well, why don't you go into the health and fitness industry? Why don't you just try, see if you like it? So I did. I trained to become a personal trainer. And then I went to university. It was at university that I caught sort of the business bug through a few events that happened. And it was kind of a bit of a natural transition over the course of a year, and me saying to myself, am I happy? Am I passionate? Do I want to do this? And the answer was no. So I had to transition.
Yeah. And are you happy now?
Very.
I can imagine, you set out, you look very happy. you set out on a journey, and, you've achieved many of your goals by now. So you have business that works, big podcast, you have your team, business that's running, you're in all kinds of markets, you have your wife. So part of happiness is also having those next goals. What is right now on your agenda? Where are you moving towards in the moment?
So we're trying to expand quite aggressively into the vegan supplement, plant-based nutrition market. So our supplement brand, Awesome Supplements, is pretty much 95% vegan, plant-based. And we want to venture into new markets. We're going to launch internationally. We're looking to take on board quite a considerable amount of investment to do that. For us, we feel there's a market opportunity because of the popularity with plant-based nutrition and how good our products are. So the big challenge for us is now not looking at just the UK as our market, but looking at a completely global market and providing products and services for people, that we already do. So yeah, it's about expansion.
Right. And is it for you about the sport of just building something cool? Or is it about the mission of creating value for the world, or helping this vegan movement? What is the driver for you?
I think it's a bit of everything. I find business a enjoyable challenge. Not every day is a rainbow. Like, business is full of issues. Like, you have to have a thick skin. You have to be willing to, see 50 closed doors before you get one that opens and stuff. And, that's a really important mindset to have. So I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm on a mission. I love helping other people. I love creating products and services and building things. When I was at school, I was into art. So I love just creating things. And I love challenging myself. Like, what am I capable of? What am I capable of today that I wasn't capable of tomorrow? And I think that's a very exciting place to be in, to do a job when you know that you can challenge yourself, you know that you can evolve, you know that you can be better. So it's definitely not one thing that drives me anymore.
So Ben, I'm curious about our health, and most of our listeners, they're executives, people working in big offices, sitting most of the day. So the question number one is, what will be few of the tips for all of those people who have sitting jobs, and mostly how to get in shape?
Yeah, so getting in shape is simple. It's just not always easy. And it's not always easy because we don't always have the lifestyle that is often conducive to, being a good, healthy weight. A lot of people that are in, high profile jobs are quite often entertaining, going out for drinks, meals, all that kind of stuff. So you have to think ahead and you have to plan. And I think people that are quite often in business, they'll quite often put work first and, the job and meetings and stuff, and their health is always secondary to that. But I'm a firm believer that if you look after your health will look after your work. And, at some point, you're going to have to make time for your health if you keep neglecting it. So even if you got up in the morning and you just went for a 20-minute walk outside, or you walk to work, and fitness has a great way of setting us up for the day, and giving us a break. We all need a break. Like, we can't just work ourselves into the ground. It's ridiculous. So when people are really busy and they just want to be happy and healthy, I'm actually quite a big fan of sort of intermittent fasting, or having periods of time where you just don't really have food. Mm-hmm. So for example, I quite often get up in the morning and I won't eat for a while. I have like quite a late breakfast, and that might seem like, oh great, so what? Well, if you have a late breakfast, that means that you're pushing more of your calorie intake further towards the end of the day. So that means that later on in the day, you've got more room to consume more food without getting overweight, because more, every one of us has a certain amount of calories that they need every day. So maintaining healthy weight is about having calorie balance. And quite often people that are into business and they're busy, they're not tracking their fitness too closely. They're not overly concerned with that kind of stuff. So actually just having a simple template that allows you to kind of eat the food and entertain in the evening and go out for meals and not worry too much is actually a very good thing. So for me, it's like anything. Like in business, you need a plan to win, right? Well, in your health goals with your body, you need a plan to win. And I just want people and encourage people to sit down and actually make time for that. Like, how can we fit fitness into your lifestyle? Doesn't mean you have to go to the gym, but it might be that you run a couple of times a week, walk, do yoga, like whatever it is. But it is, it really is about planning and making time for it.
I love it. And it's literally for the first time that I hear postpone your breakfast. I never hear it. Most of people say, yeah, have breakfast as fast as possible. So how come did you say that we can postpone our breakfast? How much can we postpone our breakfast?
Well, you can postpone it as long as you want, really. I mean, remember, the human body is full of fuel. Your muscles have fuel in it. Your fat cells have fuel in it. So if you skipped breakfast, you'll start using the stores in your body. So, there's loads of myths that people talk about. The reality is the body's a very resilient machine. It can do a lot of cool things. So I'll quite often have breakfast at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll have like a late lunch and then, an evening meal. But that works for me, and it allows more flexibility, because a lot of people that are busy with work, they like to get up and just get on with their day. And quite often breakfast can be a hindrance. It's something quick. It's quite often something that's not really that nutritious. So how about we just eat a little bit later, eat something that's better for you. So I'm not saying that this is like something people have to do, but there's loads of different ways to set up your nutrition for a positive outcome. And it's about looking at your lifestyle and what you can do for a better outcome.
And are there any mistakes that lots of people make when it comes to their nutrition?
There's absolutely loads. Like, where do you want to start? In the world of nutrition, we focus an awful lot on good and bad. And it's quite often, if I have something bad, then, the days are right off and I might as well just keep eating bad and eat whatever I want. And, I'm having a good day, so I'll keep doing good things. It's like, we need to get out of this mindset, because it's not really healthy. Like, if you want a chocolate bar, then you just have a chocolate bar and go home and then have a proper meal. We don't have to have this mindset where, I've had a chocolate bar, so my health is now a write-off. I'm now going to go and get a bad dinner. I have a Chinese for dinner or something. So it's this good and bad mentality is a really bad place to be in.
Right. So I think it all comes down, at least in my perception, listening to you and being on this journey on my own for about 15 years, when I'm like, okay, now I feel great. And 3 days later, like, I don't feel that great anymore. Now I want to shape, now I want to lose weight, and I want to gain weight. It's always like those ups and downs. And listening to it seems like the only way is to find a good personal coach, personal trainer, someone who is like able to tell me what should I do. Now the question is, how do I find a trainer or a coach? How do I recognize the coach that is suitable for me?
I think having rapport is a very important thing. You want to be able to sit down with your coach, have a conversation. Do you have common values? Does the coach really buy into you and your goals? As soon as a coach is dogmatic about their ideas, like, we should do things like this. You should do that. Don't do it that way. This is bad. It's going to be a bad relationship. A coach is about looking at the options, chatting through your lifestyle, and finding sometimes compromises. Like, we can all sit here and say the perfect workout is this, but if you don't enjoy it, or you don't like it, or it doesn't fit, let's try the alternative, which is 80% as good as the perfect. But actually, if you can be consistent with that, then absolutely brilliant. Like, it's like in business, there's loads of ways to go about growing a business. But if you consistently execute a plan, then that plan is going to work, compared to the perfect plan that you can't consistently execute. So I think having rapport and finding a coach that is very compassionate to you and your goals is very important.
Well, one thing you mentioned about making the plan and then working the plan also triggered this idea that as of there, you can always adjust. You can always see what's working, do more of that, what's not working, and then either fix it or ditch it. And that way it's a fluid thing. There is not one way to design our life, and then that's something to hold on to for the next 40 years. It also evolves as you go. So that continuous reflection on where am I, how do I feel, and how can I improve it, that is something that I've seen in our lives. Everything has been changing, except for breakfast. Like our breakfast has been
all the time the same.
But if it works for you, then absolutely brilliant. Don't change it. And for me, if someone always says, like, what are some of your best business tips? One of my favorite business tips is, to set aside half an hour each week and just stand back and say, right, am I happy with how this week has gone? Like, did my meetings go well? Did I hit my goals? Am I happy with my fitness? And you just reflect and go, hang on a second, I'm really not happy with how this area of my life panned out this week. What would I change? What can I implement next week? Was it just a bad week? And do I accept that? Or can I change something to positively impact it? And it is. It's like a flowing river. A rock gets thrown in and we have to move around it. We have to find another path. So we have to be open to change, 100%.
Yeah, and take ownership of the whole thing, rather than just to sit back and hope that things will be okay. Take ownership and manage. Management is about being in control of your destiny. And it's these type of moments that make all the difference, is what we found.
100%. If you were to ask me what my favorite book is, it's Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Yeah. Jocko Willink, he's the military guy, isn't he?
Yeah. That book is incredible. But it's just that mindset. And it's a mindset that I would say I was 80% close to in business. But when I took extreme ownership about everything in my business, then my business really did transform itself, because actually we can all blame things on staff, processes, software. It all comes back to us. We make the decisions at the end of the day. And if you are a manager, if you are leading other people, you have to look at yourself first rather than looking at the person.
So yeah. What was one of those things that was in that 20% that you discovered, hey, I was too easy on myself there. I was too lazy. And once I took ownership, things changed.
So in sort of 2016, my business started to expand and I started to take on more and more staff. And I started to take on sort of more executive staff, if you would call it that. And I thought that, bringing on people that had a certain amount of experience and qualifications would just solve all the problems. And I didn't take enough responsibility of really shaping that role, creating the culture, that it would just all work out. And then a lot of things went wrong. 2017 nearly went bankrupt, spent the whole year trying to fight back and correct all the mistakes that I'd had. And actually, when I look back at it, none of what happened is anyone else's fault but my own. I made the hire, I set the culture, I make the systems. And if you relinquish too much control, then things are going to go wrong. I'm not saying relinquish so much control that people don't have autonomy in their roles and can't be creative and enjoy their jobs. But ultimately, everyone still needs a framework. And if you're the business owner, you are controlling that framework for success.
It's all about clarity. Something I learned managing teams as well is it's very simple. There's only a few ways to get something right. And there's infinite ways to get it wrong. So when you as a leader are not crystal clear on which desired outcomes are expected and why, then how can you blame someone for not doing the best possible job?
And it's hard because a lot of people don't like to fail. They don't like to be vulnerable. But the reality is, if you want to be a high achiever, you need to be both of those things. You need to accept that things need to change. You need to be willing to fail to find out what needs to be done better next time. And I find that a lot with, hiring good people. The best people that you can hire are the people that are actually willing to sit there and go, actually, I screwed up there. That's my fault. And nothing bad happens after that, right? Because we then sit down and go, awesome. We've accepted that didn't go wrong. Let's sit down and create a better plan for the future so you and me can succeed together.
That's it. It's all about learning. As long as you keep learning and improving, then you're in an upward trend.
100%.
So which tips do you apply managing your teams from your coaching? Because you coach people, and I believe that there are lots of similarities in how you coach your team and how you coach people as a fitness coach or instructor.
Sure. So in terms of like leading my team, over the last year, 2018, I started to experiment with giving my team a lot more autonomy and giving them a lot more, they're able to control creative projects and all that kind of stuff. And I found that full autonomy doesn't work in a business, in my opinion, and in my business. So me as the leader, I tend to now set the framework of where the business is going and how we're going to achieve it and what targets are related to that. So our KPIs. And then it's like, right, we're going to attack this market segment, or we're going to push an initiative into this market. This is kind of how we need to do it. But now you're able to shape how we do it. And that's where the autonomy comes in, because otherwise there is just too much grey. The chances are a business owner or a manager or a leader is in that position because they have clarity. They know what they're doing. They know what they need. And that's why they're in that position. It's their job to lead from the front, to be the orchestrator. And it's the people underneath to then say, okay, awesome. I'm going to take that clarity and direction, and I'm going to use my ideas within that framework to win.
That's cool. That is a type of team that I would like to work in. Which is good, because you're going to grow, so you're going to need ever more people. So better make it a nice environment, better make it a good way to spend your life.
100%.
It's the team ultimately that makes a success.
I'm curious about what makes a fitness plan a successful plan. So when I say, hey, Ben, look, I just really want to get back in shape. I want 2 centimeters there less, 3 centimeters there less. How do we know that this whole project was successful? Is it only about getting the fitness results in terms of how my physical body will look, or do you also strive for mental health?
I think you've got to strive for mental health all the time. You can create short-term success with the body, but if the mind doesn't follow, then the body's going to fall back behind because old habits are going to creep in. So mental health has to be improved all the time. Like we've just talked about forever learning. And if you don't learn about why and how your body is changing, then you will not implement that change long term. So, mental health in our modern world, in, this place that we're now in with all this technology and social media and emails pinging all the time, mental health is so important. And that's why, I like to coach people to say, when are you taking your time out? When are you getting some fitness in? When are you enjoying your family time? When you stop for the weekend, are you able to turn your phone off and completely decompress from your work? Because the only way to stay very passionate about your job is to allow that free time and that exploration and just chilling out. You have to allow that. And I can, try and be as passionate as I want, but if I don't get enough rest and my mind doesn't rest enough, then I literally just can't stay passionate. And it's not that I no longer enjoy what I'm doing, it's I'm not getting the time to enjoy it in the way that I want to.
Wow, I really love your perspective. It's literally for the first time, or not maybe for the first time, but there are not so many coaches that I was in contact with that have such a broad knowledge. It comes to time management and mental health and physical health. It's so much more than just this is your diet and this is your training plan. So I really appreciate it. And I believe that working with such a coach is is, how would I say it? If you really want to change your life, it's not only about changing your body, but you really want to change your life and the way how you live. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that quote we once read? It is like some coaches connect their clients with themselves, but the real good coaches connect the client with who they really are on the inside. And I think that's what it comes down to. There's always the total picture of who somebody is and what they need. And if you want somebody to make better choices, they need to think differently. So you always end up in the mindset area. At least that's our experience.
Definitely. If I was to say the biggest change that I've made in my coaching practice over the last 6 or 7 years, it's a complete focus on psychological well-being. You know, if I was to look at my coaching history as a fitness coach, all the unsuccessful clients I had were as a result of me not having the knowledge as a coach to change their mindset and shift how they feel mentally and emotionally, because the fitness stuff is easy. Exercise, diet plan, all of that stuff's simple. Changing your mindset, changing your habits, changing your environment, changing your relationships, that stuff's difficult.
Yeah. And it's really powerful once you get to do that. You have the ability to help somebody change their life. And, you know, we speak about this from a health and fitness coach point of view, but also from a leadership point of view. We always say that the great managers in a business, great team leaders, in the first place, they are a coach to their team, looking at their team as a set of athletes, a set of champions, and bringing out the best in them. And so mindset, the way they think about reality, the way they speak about themselves, how they make decisions, that is critical. So now my question for you is, how can you, as a team leader, influence the mindset of the people in your team so that they bring out the best in themselves at work?
Firstly, I always like to lead by example. So if I want to create a flexible working pattern or, you know, all of that kind of stuff, I have to be doing it as well. I have to be showing that I'm switching off and not sending emails on a Sunday morning at 3 a.m. and all that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. Asking very direct but compassionate questions of your team. So if your team has goals, don't be afraid to sit down with them and say, hey, I want the best out of your work life, your family life, you know, your fun, your adventure, your holiday. What are we doing right now that isn't working for you? What could we change so that I win and you win? You enjoy your job more, but we get more output. And it's kind of like, I think managers sometimes feel that they can't ask really direct questions and be really honest with employees. But unless you ask those questions, unless you have those conversations, you're never really going to help them. You're doing a complete disservice. So I'll sit down with a team member and I'll be really honest and say, are you enjoying your job? Do you feel passionate about your work today? When was the last time you didn't feel passionate about your work? And then we say, oh, why was that? And it might have just been that it was a hard day at the office. Something happened. We had to fight a big problem and that kind of stuff happens. But if there's a consistent pattern, you can then work with that employee or team person to really correct that. And they'll really, really value that. And that's how you get team players for life. You know, I haven't had anyone leave my business in some time now that's in an influential position because I work hard to really manage their emotional well-being in the workplace.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you find out that, you know, there's something in the mindset that can be improved, like what are some things people can do to actually learn those new habits to become that better version of themselves that they envision?
Are you talking from a personal perspective or a kind of a team and a business perspective?
Well, I'm talking from a personal perspective. So we are the total sum of our habits.
Yep.
So in order to create Alexander version 1.1, it would mean take a habit that I want to dispose and replace it with a new one.
Yep.
Making that decision is only the start of it, and chances are that somewhere along the way I'm going to forget about it and just stay with version 1.0. So what are some things that people can do to learn those new habits and stick with them?
Sure. So I always talk about momentum and friction with people that I'm coaching. So I say to people, right, you get up in the morning with every intention to have a huge amount of momentum. You have a cup of coffee, you have a stretch, you think about your day, and then where in your day do you lose momentum as a result of friction? And quite often it's because there's a negative environment or a negative habit or something like that. And I'm saying, right, our next job, our number one focus is to solve this friction, to take it away, because then momentum is allowed to naturally build. Everyone will naturally build more positive momentum if you remove friction. And quite often fitness coaches are always trying to add positive habits without taking away negative. But if we just remove negative, positive thrives, it grows. It's like a plant. It's like you're now feeding it. So that's what I work on, because if you just try and add more things to a person's life, over time, they'll just get overwhelmed. There's just too much to think about. It's too much change. So how about we remove things, we simplify things, and we allow positivity to grow. And then really momentum becomes super easy. It becomes enjoyable.
I love that. That's a unique perspective on flow.
Yeah, can you give us a clear and concrete example so that all the listeners can make a clear picture of what it means?
Yeah, so in the team environment, you could maybe look at going into work. So you get up in your day, you go to the gym, you're feeling great, you get to work, you start doing your emails, everything's great, and then you've got a 10:30 meeting, and it's a team meeting, and you're maybe talking about a product launch or something like that, and you sit down and there's this team member that they anger you. They just get you wound up. You hate their perspective. Every time they open their mouth, you're just like, ugh, that person. And then you feel negative about that person. Now, then that situation in the team meeting, it then might make you make a bad decision at lunch. And that bad decision at lunch then leaves you tired in the afternoon because you ate some crap food at lunch. And then you're pissed off because you can't get your emails done quickly and you feel unproductive. And then, the day just goes to pot. So my job as a coach is to remove that friction. So how can I solve the fact that person makes my person that I'm coaching angry? So let's talk through the things with that person and try and pick up the character traits that frustrates that person. So I would then coach people through maybe having a different mindset around that person, or asking questions in a different way, or maybe avoiding contact with them, or whatever it is. Because then if I remove that friction, the rest of that person's day is far more awesome.
And here's the crazy thing, the thing that turned my life around a couple of years ago, is when I realized that actually, when there's a person triggering anger in me, first it seems to be out of my control because I cannot control what the person does. One time, like, somebody told me that it's not that person that makes you angry, it is your interpretation of what that person does. So now I had the control of changing my interpretation, giving a different meaning to the situation. And that made everything much easier.
The way I look at it, if people struggle with people that, kind of make them angry or whatever, whether this is the right or the wrong thing, it doesn't really matter, because this is an internal thought process anyway. It's not something that you're ever acting out or verbalizing. So anyone that I see that is angry or, just displaying behavior that I don't like, I just say to myself, do you know what, mate? I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for the fact that you have so much anger inside you, or that you can't see other people's opinions or whatever. And then it just allows me to not get affected by that person. Their thoughts and actions just wash over me like a river. And I just leave that situation thinking, do you know what? I feel sorry for you. And that always fixes it for me.
Now, talking about anger and emotions, I assume that it has something to do with the food that we eat, right? Certain foods make you maybe feel better. Certain foods maybe make you feel in a more negative. So do you have any tips on what to eat more of or less of? And does food have any impact on that?
Yeah, it does. First and foremost, the thing that can stop us from listening or being able to tell how our food is making us sort of feel energy-wise is sleep. So sleep has to be the foundation of high performance. You have to sleep well. I didn't sleep well last night. Only got about 5.5 hours sleep. I'm not as effective today. I don't feel as good. Everything's taken a little bit longer than it should do. Food doesn't make me feel as good as it should do because I'm just a bit tired. And we have to recognize that. And it has to be something that we focus a lot of time and attention on. The key thing for me is the majority of the time we need to try and eat real food. I don't think anyone can argue that the body is designed to eat, plants and, all that kind of stuff. After that, I just implore people to listen. So if you eat a meal and you feel tired 2-3 hours afterwards, why was that? Like, what did you eat? Did it maybe not have enough fiber, not enough protein? Was it not very well balanced? And then you can just self-assess and listen to your nutrition on an ongoing basis and say, do you know what? I need to build my nutrition kind of like this. And I know that makes me feel good. And if we get that right, and like you said, you've been eating the same breakfast for a long time. Well, if that breakfast makes you feel good, keep doing that. There's no reason to change it because it's giving you good, positive momentum. So if people actually spent time listening to their body and how food reacts with them, the chances are they'd pick up a lot more than they realize.
Yeah. And drinking a lot of water, is that always a good thing for every human?
I think so, as long as it's good quality water. Remember, tap water has no minerals in it, and minerals help the body absorb the fluid. So you could be drinking an awful lot of tap water and it's not being absorbed as well by the body. So you might end up going to the toilet a lot, which is inconvenient. So I think high quality hydration is important. I'm a big fan of filtering your water and then making sure it's got some minerals in it. So even if you put a teeny weeny pinch of sea salt in your drinking water to, again, put some electrolytes in it, and it's going to be absorbed better by the body. So yeah, hydration is important.
Oh, how about the ionized water?
No, I would say that is largely a marketing fad.
Interesting. Good to know.
Yeah, we heard it once. So I also plan on asking it. Now, one thing that you mentioned at the beginning of your story is the IBS. Irritable bowel syndrome. And I heard that a lot currently. Like, I could literally say that every fifth person has problem with digestion or intestines. So what's in it? Like, I'm wondering, you probably know what's the cause of it.
There's lots of things that can cause it. The problem is a lot of people are trying to solve a health problem when there's a lot going wrong that could be going a lot better. So if someone's not living a very healthy lifestyle, and let's say they're getting bloated and getting some gas and indigestion, it's very hard to pinpoint the root cause if you're not going to bed on time, you've got a bad diet, you're not moving very much, you're not very well hydrated, all of that stuff. So I always say to people, tackle yourself, your health from a basic level first. Start going to bed on time, start eating better food, get well hydrated, move a couple of times a week, sweat a little bit. As soon as you start to do that, it becomes a lot easier to pinpoint things because IBS can be stress related, it can be food related, it could be impaired digestion, it could be lots of stuff. So it's very hard as a coach to look at someone that's doing a lot wrong and go, oh, I think it's this. A lot of people go, oh, I think it's gluten. Well, you're not going to know if there's loads going on. So clean it all up and then the picture becomes way, way clearer.
I love it. And it's easy to do, right? Let's just start moving, eating healthier, and then look at it again.
Yeah, the thing is, it's in human nature to always look for shortcuts, right? So this is what I want. What is the fastest way to get it? And taking care of all those foundations, it seems like a lot of work at first. And so we're looking for that one magic bullet, that one pill that just instantly solves things.
Well, the reality is all of us are probably going to live till we're 70, 80, 90. With technology, some of us are going to be living to 100, 110, 120. So I don't know why we're looking for a short-term fix, because we're all going to be around for a freaking long period of time.
That's right. That's right.
You might as well live in good health instead of bad health.
What about coffee? Is coffee a good thing?
Yeah, I think it is. I just think it can be abused. It can be relied on, so people, there's some people I'd say, I'm going to take your coffee away, hypothetically. And if that fills people with a little bit of mild panic, someone relies on coffee to feel, relatively alive. So that means they're probably too stressed. They're not sleeping well enough. And that's not really a good place to be in. So we know that on average, people that drink coffee live 6 or 7 years longer. So coffee is a good thing. It's not really due to the caffeine. It's due to all the bitter antioxidants in coffee that ends up being beneficial. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. I just think it's abused by a lot of people to just feel some sense of normal brain function.
Like it. Do you have any tip for all people who have troubles getting up in the morning? Is there something we can do like in the evening or straight in the morning to make the whole getting up thing easier?
Again, I'd want to know what the root cause is. Like, is someone struggling to get up because they feel unmotivated? Like maybe they're in pain. Maybe they haven't been eating enough, so their energy is low, their weight is low. Like there's literally so many things that could not get someone out of bed feeling good. So again, it's about pinpointing the root cause. And we live in an age, and I call it the Google problem, where everyone just Googles an answer for something. We want an instant answer. We want an instant solution, but we ask really generalized questions. So you've just said to me, how can I, get up more easily? It's like, well, that's really general. And we could literally sit here for an hour picking apart that problem. How about we start to find a really specific question that leads to a really specific answer? Ben, I can't get up in the morning because I feel really stiff and lethargic. Now we've got a really specific question where we can narrow down the answer to give you a few things that we can try. So, with that particular problem, I'd want to know the root cause.
So imagine, purely speaking from my perspective, and also a lot of people that come to me with that issue is, even though I sleep 8-9 hours a day, I simply get up and I don't feel that energy. Like I feel very sleepy and it's difficult to simply get up. It's not a question of motivation. It's just a question of energy.
Yeah. So I would look then to nutrition. Are there some things in the diet that are potentially exacerbating the immune system? And that's potentially putting a bit of stress on the hormonal system, because ultimately, if your hormones don't work very well, you will struggle to get up in the morning because cortisol isn't being stimulated properly, or we're not receiving and using the cortisol that's in our blood effectively. So I'd probably look at the diet then. Also, is that person eating enough consistently? So some days, some people might feel good and then other days not so good. That person could have really undereaten the day before, or they could have really overeaten, but maybe with a really high salt content in their food. So actually it's dehydrated the body because of the sodium content. So again, there's lots of things that we can start to break down and identify a pattern. And I'd always try and pair up the problems that we have. So you might say, I get a bit of fatigue in the morning, I struggle getting out of bed. I'd want to see, do you suffer from headaches or migraines or lethargy during the day, or bloating or gas or indigestion? Because then that usually links more and more to the diet. And we can explore the diet rather than focusing on something else.
Thanks. I really love that. It's so nice to know that there is someone who understands all of this, because indeed, that's what we all do. First thing that we do, we have a problem, we type in Google and we are dead by then, of course. Yeah, that's always the answer. So I'm so happy that you have such a systematic approach and you say, that's too general. Let's just dig deeper and see all the other symptoms of it. So that's super cool. That's really, really cool. And I'm super happy to know that there are people like you out there who are willing to help.
Yeah. It's like in university, the answer was always, it depends.
It is. And with most problems, people know more solutions to the problem than they really realize. And, I'll be honest, there's so many people that I coach. I'm like, this problem that we're now discussing, how much time have you spent yourself trying to solve it? And you might have actually hired me as your coach because you're just looking for a shortcut. And I will send people away from my coaching saying, you know the answers to your problem. Just go and spend a bit more time on it. Because if I just give you the answer, you haven't really solved the problem. You haven't really learned stuff. Mm-hmm. So I quite often push back on prospective clients to go away and do a bit more. Because the reality is, and the good thing is when they come back to me, they're going to be in a more specific place with more advanced problems that I can really help them with, rather than them spending loads of money answering stuff that they could have solved themselves.
I really love it. And it's very unique than what you do. Most coaches are there to just give bits and pieces of information so that they have the client for a longer time, while you are there like, I really want to help. And that's extraordinary. I'm super happy to hear that. Now, before we get into the association word game that I really love, how much time should I give to a change of my nutrition to really see the effects that I can say, listen, that seems to not have an effect on how I feel?
It depends on what the problem is. So, for example, if you're talking about someone with IBS and they were reactive to a food, if you stopped eating it, you'd start to get symptoms after 2, 3, 4 days. If someone had like a skin condition, a link with migraines in their nutrition, it might take longer because of how those systems in the body repair themselves. But ultimately, if you start eating better, the chances are you'll feel better quite quickly. So nutrition is something that you can work on and kind of pivot, as we say, quite quickly.
That's great to hear.
Brilliant. It opens the door to some simple experiments.
Yes.
Now, we would love to spend the last 2 or 3 minutes doing a rapid fire question round. So we will say either a word or a short question, and we ask you to answer with one word or one term alone.
Okay.
Are you up for that?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Ready.
First word, Lenka.
Sustainability.
Plant-based nutrition.
Leader.
Extreme ownership.
Performance.
Sleep.
Money.
Holidays.
Thinking.
Reflecting.
Success.
Being happy.
Freedom.
Traveling the world.
Happiness.
Sex.
That we didn't have it. Crazy.
Love.
What's the number one item right now on your bucket list?
Oh, traveling around South America.
Nice one. What is the personal development book that you would like to recommend to all listeners and viewers?
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
That's cool. I really like it. Like, I think you are literally the first guest who was first so fast, and second, I've really stuck to those 1 or 2 words or a term. So congrats for that. That's really good job.
Well done. I love how we get to know people also with these fast associations, we switch off the thinking mind, and it's just the first thing that your subconscious mind brings up. So that's very interesting. Now, before we close off the interview, is there one last thing, one message you'd like to pass along to our audience?
Yeah, so we are in the coaching space, and this has come up today. I would just ask people, like, the problems that you have right now, the things that you're trying to work through, just spend a little bit more time on them. Put aside a Sunday morning and say, right, I've got this problem, I want to solve it, and really stretch and challenge yourself. Then you can get rid of the simple solutions and implement them. And then when you look to go and find a coach, which is highly valuable, I recommend coaching and mentoring to everyone because it makes you a better person. You can then really get to the really specific stuff, the higher level stuff, because otherwise the coach has got to spend 4, 6, 8 weeks working through all the basic stuff. which doesn't ever make a coach excited. And then you'll spend your money wiser and you'll make more progress.
I love it. Great advice.
Now I know why the podcast and why you are so special in what you do, because the answers that you've given us are so different from what I could ever expect. It's so much less about the nutrition and the physical body and so much more about the mindset that we have, the way we think, the way we act and behave than what I expected. So I'm so pleasantly surprised, but I thank you so much. And I'm sure that all listeners are now like, okay, so where can I find more information about this guy?
Sure. So I'm Ben Coomber all over the internet. Ben, Coomber, bencoomber.com, Ben Coomber Radio on iTunes, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Wherever you like to digest your info, stick my name in, you'll find me.
One last question. Do you also do online coaching, or do have to people be present in the UK?
All of my coaching is online.
That opens the door to all of the listeners all over the world. I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Ben. I really enjoyed the tips, and I'm happy to start thinking more about the way how I treat myself.
Awesome. You are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Now, after you listen to this episode with Ben, are you as well decided that you are gonna go for a personal trainer? Like, I do see such a tremendous value in it, because listening to Ben, like, I finally know how to find my trainer. It's not only about getting the fitness plan and getting a diet, it's actually getting someone on your board, someone who helps you to steer that ship so that you have amazing life, you feel great, and you create great experiences.
That's right. Ben Coomber, I recommend you stay in touch. If you like this interview, you want to stay in touch regarding all this health advice, fitness tips, especially the vegan products that Ben was speaking about in the beginning of the interview. That is what he's focusing on right now. bencoomber.com, that's where you can find him, and also Instagram, Twitter, and all the other social media. Ben Coomber, you can also find it in the show notes. This episode was brought to you by Earn More, Work Less. We give superpowers to your team. Get rid of stress in the office. For now, let's all go out, make it a beautiful day, and have fun.